Mint is not only NTE's poster child, but more importantly an A-rank anima on-field main DPS. She specializes in dealing consistent damage, capitalizing off a low skill cooldown and cooldown resets upon triggering a dodge counter, or better known as a critical riposte in NTE. Welcome, I am Rivyn Elowen, but you may call me Rivy, and this is your complete guide to NTE's poster child, Mint. Mint features a 5-part basic attack, which does exactly what it is supposed to do, so instead let's talk about her spin to win. Holding down her basic attack button, Mint will first jump into the air, then start spinning around, continuously consuming stamina. The maximum duration of the spin is 6 seconds and it deals up to 30 instances of damage, relatively even distributed throughout. Mint is not immune to damage or interrupts during the jump nor while spinning, and because of the long wind-up time as well as the aggressive behaviors of bosses and their tendency to also jump around pretty wildly, we will not really use the skill unless the enemy is stunned. It does generate a large amount of charge and energy however, so if the enemy is actually stunned, we want to use it. Mint's critical riposte does also what it is supposed to do, and it will become her most important skill with her Awakening 1 unlocked, as triggering it will also fully reset the cooldown of her skill. While I usually evaluate characters at A0, yes, even A ranks, at least this early into the game, given that we can unlock it rather quickly and how important this awakening is for her, we will continue the rest of the guide with her A1 in mind. Her skill deals some damage on a very low cooldown, and that's effectively it. But due to said low cooldown and her resets, it is her most important ability. Mint's ultimate is also rather simple as well, but it deals a good chunk of damage and can make up for a large part of her damage profile. The same can also be said about her support skill, except that it doesn't make up for a large part of her damage. Her first passive expands the AoE of Vita Pistol's hits spawned by the Esper Cycle Blossom, and while marginally useful in AoE scenarios, this does absolutely nothing in single-target boss fights. Lastly, as for her second passive, it increases her defense and interrupt resistance. And while we don't really care too much about the defense part, the increased interrupt resistance can be very useful when casting her skill, as it does not guarantee any iframes and she can get knocked out of it. That also already covers her entire kit, and while it is rather simple and straightforward, the skill resets are really fun to play with. Mint's damage is somewhat distributed all throughout her kit, so she is not necessarily a cheap investment. Focus on her basics and skill first and foremost, then her ultimate and support skill, then her passive 2, and lastly her passive 1. You can leave both passives locked if you are short on resources, but the increased interrupt resistance can be very useful at times. As already established, she is an on-fielder that is also rather easy to play, and so she does not have many combos. We use her skill, then her critical riposte when attacked, and then again her skill. While the skill is on its frankly very low cooldown, we fill the time with her regular basic attacks. Because bosses are rather aggressive, you will find yourself using this combo more often than not, but also please keep in mind that it does require her Awaken 1. If the enemy is stunned or, going by the game's term, broken, we will use her skill, then hold her basic attack for her spin to win, followed by another skill. If you run the arc Shiny Days, you can also keep your ultimate for the stun window, but because ultimates are one of the highest break sources in the game, it is often not worth doing so, as enemies do not take increased damage while stunned. Mint's Awaken 1 is our most important one, not only in terms of damage but also gameplay enjoyment, as it provides her with her skill resets. It also pairs nicely with her Awakening 5 as it basically guarantees 100% uptime on the crit damage bonus, albeit the difference is actually minimal if you just simply use your skill on cooldown anyways. Her A6 is a raw damage gain for about 40% of the time, and her A2, A3 and A4 are all direct damage increases with conditions that are ideally always true anyway, with her A4 doing absolutely nothing in A and E scenarios however, which to be fair you will encounter a lot early on. Because of that, I would recommend unlocking her A4 last, despite 12% crit rate being very good. But you can also always change your mind at any time anyways, so there isn't really too much to worry about. Basically, just select it versus bosses. Always select her A1 first, then her A5, followed by her Awakenings 2, 3 and 6.
Most people skip right here, so hi, welcome! I hope you have a great day and my calculations will help you out. If you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Statistically, there's a good chance you are not yet subscribed. Thank you. I love you.
The Battle Pass weapon Fluff of Fleetness is her general best on slot choice, but requires you to spend a little bit more time on field before casting her important skills to build up stacks. The A-rank Mind Royale can actually be a better choice, but that is also only if it grants you another ultimate. The longer the fight takes, the more likely that additional ultimate becomes. However, if the fight takes too long, and you already have a lot of different damage sources, the gain might also be lower. Usually, you don't really get more than 1 or 2 breaks, and depending on whether or not you have your ultimate ready during that time, this weapon can also lose a little bit of value. As for shiny days, usually you don't get more than 1 or 2 breaks, and depending on whether or not you have your ultimate ready during that time, this weapon can lose quite a bit of value. Mint wants Fireflies and the Forest, and that is kinda her only choice. Not really much to say here. Either crit rate or anima damage are her best cartridge main stat, with crit rate being better the less you have of it. She already gains a lot of crit damage from the cartridge set, so that is somewhat-ish saturated already. Both Haniel and Sakedi, as well as Fluff of Fleetness and also Blow Up the Crowd, provide a good chunk of attack to her, so attack percent loses a bit of value as well. Mint has a Type 3 crit rate specialization and gains 7.5% crit rate for each Type 3 module equipped. Ideally you have 4 of them, means she gains 30% crit rate. As for your substats, focus on damage bonus and crit values first and foremost, then attack percent and lastly flat attack. Both a cycle and break intensity can be a bit better or worse than shown here depending on your team and how many Esper cycles or breaks you actually get. The same priority also applies to your cartridge substats, just with higher numbers. Mint likes her field time as well as buffs, so a classic hypercarry team with Zero, Daffodil and Haniel are a great choice. If you don't want to play Haniel, both Sakedi and Adler can do their job as well, but especially the latter needs Daffodil as Adler loses a lot of his value without the Scourge Esper cycle. Both also give access to Hexed, increasing Mint's damage capabilities even further. Mint can also work with Hathor and Haniel of Radia, where Hathor takes the role of a burst sub-TPS, only taking the field when her ultimate and 6 stacks are ready, and Haniel or Fadia providing the Stain Esper cycle to buff Hathor's damage during that time. Mint is first of all free and also very fun and easy to play, primarily focusing on taking more field time than other characters, often resulting in a less quick swap heavy playstyle, making her more accessible for players who dislike quick swap. She is however outclassed by Nanali, who effectively takes on the same role as her, and Ji Yuan, who has more flexibility in her team building than Mint has, as she has an easier time being used as a sub-DPS as opposed to Mint. Mint is also heavily reliant on her Awakening 1, but at least that you are likely to get very early into the game anyway. Mint does not really have many weapon options, but one of her better choices is an A rank. Lastly, because her damage is distributed all throughout her kit, she is not the cheapest investment, but if invested properly, she can deal a significant amount of damage. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave me a comment on your thoughts about our poster child, and of course, join the Discord. A special thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace!